Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Daily Betslip. Tuesdays feel like Mondays during the NFL season because NFL Week 2 officially in the book after last night's doubleheader. NFL Week 3 kind of starts today. I'm joined today by Ben Heisler at Benny Heis. Ben, please tell me that you did better with your football picks over the weekend than I did because I got crushed.
I did do well.
Nice.
Kind of was reacting to overreaction week. I'm surprised that it was a struggle for you, Ian, because this is your MO. I'm not going to be overreact guy, and this is all about the overreactions from week 1 to week 2. Going back, we always talk about trying to trust our process when we're handicapping games. Is there one thing that you can sort of put your finger on as to why some of them got away from you?
Not really, to be honest. And usually it is weird because usually I start the NFL seasons off hot. This year, not as well. I mean, it's 6-10, so I mean, it could have been worse, but some bad beats. Bad beats. I was on the bad end of that Cardinals comeback against the Raiders. The Falcons back door covering the Rams.
That one I had the Cardinals at plus 5.5. Backed into that one. The Jets. I ended up having it plus 6.5. I mean, that ended up being a win for you. I know you had the Jets on the money line this week. So couple of nice upsets for you over the last couple of weeks as well. So I wouldn't hang your hat too badly. I think the units are probably still there, even if the record may not be there.
Lots of football left to go as well, so I'm not getting too concerned. But we don't have any football really to talk about tonight because only MLB on tonight. We are going to talk about teams that we are buying low on and selling high on, if I said that in the right order, which is perfect because that goes to the current thing we were just talking about overreacting and underreacting to some teams. So that'll be coming up later on the show. Go ahead and click the like button and the subscribe button, please. And as always, we have best bets and community picks to get to. So why don't we dive right into the community picks today sent through to us on Twitter. I think they're all MLB because I'm pretty sure that's all we got to bet on tonight. Darth Yoshi at Yoshi _Cov 95. I love it. Do you pronounce it Yoshi or Yoshi? That's always a debate.
If we're going by the wonderful Mario character that was the green monster, I think was it monster or dinosaur?
Dinosaur.
We're already messing it up. I would go with Yoshi.
My favorite Mario Kart driver back in the day. All right. Anyways, Darth Yoshi says Mets first 5 minus 0.5. So the first 5 run line plus 120. Ashby has allowed 32 runs in his last 10 games. Brewers have a 1-9 record in the last 10 games that he started. 4.58 ERA. This is our game of the night. So we both have a pick for this that we'll get into later on the show. But yeah, Aaron Ashby's numbers as of late, not good.
No, very surprising given that they've struggled as much as they have with him on the mound. The actual numbers for Ashby aren't a disaster, but for whatever reason or another, you just feel like you're going into that game and the Brewers are almost playing from behind the moment that they step on the field.
Yep, for sure. All right, let's bring up the next community pick for MLB tonight. Hot takes with TP3 at TP3 bets. Rays -1. So not exactly the run line if he's not getting the hook here, just -1. Astros are probably hung over after celebrating winning the division, and McClanahan is lights out at home. Ooh, a little hungover handicapping. How about that?
Some of my favorite handicapping have been hungover handicaps. I'll bite my tongue on this one a little bit because this is going to lead into one of my best bets of the night. But TP bets, I think you might be onto something here. I kind of like it.
I will say Shane McClanahan. I mean, I haven't looked at baseball too much before today, really, since NFL started. But is he still in the Cy Young race? Because I got to bet on him to win the AL Cy Young. I know Verlander was hurt for a little bit. Does that put Shane McClanahan back in or no?
Not necessarily. I think he missed a couple of starts. Obviously, if he just goes on an absolute tear, he might be able to make some noise. We saw Dylan Cease, who we thought was probably going to be out of it, when Verlander really started to take hold. Remember, the two of them had a head-to-head game in Chicago that the Cease ended up struggling in. But since then, he's taken over now as the favorite for the AL Cy Young, which is good for your boy because I jumped on board the Dylan Cease train when he was at plus 275. So hoping that he's able to hold out, and even if the White Sox don't make the playoffs, it certainly won't be because of Dylan Cease.
All right, well, we still got a couple weeks left. Maybe my guy Shane McClanahan can make a run here. Who knows? I need a big start from him tonight. So I do like that pick. I'm not betting on the Rays game, but I do like that pick from at TP3 bets. All right, let's move on to the third community pick for tonight. Sean Mitchelson, I think he sends in a pick every single show. We appreciated it. And what I appreciate even more is that he sends in a description of why he likes the pick, which makes our job easy. So he's on Atlanta, -1.5 first 5. So usually the run line for the first 5 is just -0.5. So kind of an alternate first 5 run line here. Morton versus Corbin. Braves, third most profitable first 5 run line team in fourth in runs. Nats, 29th, first 5 and 25th in runs. Corbin has given up 15 earned runs and 13.2 innings pitched against Atlanta this year. Thoughts?
My thoughts are kind of in line with the Sox fan 24, is that Patrick Corbin is bad and the Braves feast on left-handed pitching. This really should be out of hand fairly quickly, but because the Nationals are paying Patrick Corbin a lot of money, they're going to trot him out there every 5th day. I think I'm trying to remember who wrote this up for us over at BetSided today, but essentially, Corbin is leading Major League Baseball in starts, and yet his ERA is amongst the worst in baseball. So, they say consistency is almost the best thing that you can have sometimes. But in the case of Patrick Corbin, yes, showing up to work every 5th day hasn't necessarily been a great thing, but he has been reliable to at least be on the mound throwing baseballs.
Yes, that is Josh Yorish who wrote that up about.
Right, our guy Josh.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue against the bet. It should hit. Will it? Time will tell.
Let's bring up, man.
It's baseball. Who knows? I'm sick of betting on it, but we're back to it tonight. I've been keeping my baseball record so far this season. I think I'm down like 10 units. Hasn't been a great baseball year for me. It's always been one of my toughest sports. Let's bring up the next community pick here. Pretty straightforward. Jake Long at Persa Andre. Yankees -1.5. Bold move back in the Yankees to cover a spread. Are they even? Yeah, they're playing the Pirates today. I guess it's not that bold, but also the Yankees have still not been good since the All-Star break. We keep expecting them to really get hot. They haven't really. They still have a 5.5 game lead on the AL East, but they are playing against the Pirates, against a guy who hasn't. Luis Ortiz, I think, has pitched one time this season.
Yeah, I'll be talking about this matchup coming up in a little bit. So again, I'll bite my tongue. But two teams that, if you're assuming that you're going to be taking the Yankees on the run line, you kind of have to hope that they score runs because it's probably not going to be coming from the Pittsburgh Pirates side. So if the Yankees are going to win, you hope that it's more than a 1-0 type of victory. I'll say that.
There you go. Yes or no, Ben? Do the Yankees still win the AL East, or do the Rays or Blue Jays catch them?
Right now, how many games up are the Yankees in the division? I'll say, yeah, I'll say they hang on and win this one. 5.5, especially with a couple weeks left to go. I think it'll be interesting. If I'm setting the over under on the amount of games that they will win the division by, I'll put it at 2.5. I think either Toronto or Tampa Bay makes it interesting. But I do say the Yankees ultimately win out in the end.
I will say the Jays do have a 3-game series left against the Yankees at home. So if the Blue Jays sweep that series, who knows? Things could get interesting in the final week or so. All right. I believe that is it for our community picks. Let's get into our best bets for tonight. All baseball. And we each, we got a pitching prop each, a total bet each, and then a side each. So why don't we start with the pitching props? Ben, you go ahead and give us your first.
Yeah, let's talk about the hangover game. Astros going on the road against the Tampa Bay Rays. Shane McClanahan, who we talked about a little bit earlier on in the show, love his over on strikeouts tonight. 5.5, you think going up against the Astros, it's always going to be a difficult challenge. They're one of the most patient teams in baseball. Their strikeout rate is top 5 on the positive side as far as their ability to not have a lot of swings and misses to go down the bench. But this number's moved up throughout the course of the day. It opened at 4.5, has since moved up to 5.5. According to Fancher, they pointed out that McClanahan has gone over 5.5 strikeouts at home in 13 of his last 15 games. Meanwhile, as our community pick mentioned, the Astros clinched the AL West last night. Ian, they're sending out the BetSided lineup after drinking at the Korean barbecue joint in New York for today. So I have some serious doubts about their ability to catch up to 97 miles per hour with movement. I think McClanahan rolls. It's a big game for the Rays to be able to keep going in that wild card race. I like Tampa, and I like, in particular, McClanahan with his over at 5.5 tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, there's not really much left else for the Astros to play for. They're what, 9 games up on the to lead the American League, so they got home field advantage throughout the rest of throughout the playoffs. I guess if they want to try to catch the Dodgers to get World Series home field advantage, but still, yeah. So probably celebrated last night. We'll see how they perform today against the Rays. My first pick, I'm going to go with a pitcher prop as well. I'm going to go with Luis Castillo over 7.5 strikeouts, plus money here, plus 106. And I love this prop bet at plus money because the Athletics have been absolutely horrible in the strikeout department this season, even more so this month. Dead last in strikeout percentage in the month of September, striking out on 29.8% of plate appearances. Not good. And also, Luis Castillo has surpassed this strikeout total. He's hit at least 8 strikeouts in 3 of his last 4 starts. And he's been kind of hot with his strikeouts since the All-Star break in general. So pre-All-Star break, he averaged 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Post-All-Star break, 10.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. So an increase of 1.4 strikeouts per 9 innings since from the second half to the first half. So Luis Castillo, I think he'll hit the over on this number tonight. Love it at plus money. Over 7.5 strikeouts.
Yeah, 7.5 is a lot to get to, but Castillo, especially since coming over to the Mariners, has shown that he can use more of his pitches in his arsenal. In Cincinnati, where he was pitching half the time in an absolute bandbox at Great American Ballpark, he was relying a little bit more on trying to keep the ball in the zone, pitching to contact, knowing that a fly ball could likely end up resulting in a home run. And there'd be games where he'd be losing 3-2 because he gave up a couple solo bombs. And now that he actually can up the velocity a little bit, it's starting to show in Seattle. Plus, you get the extra foul ground territory in Oakland. Pitchers love to pitch there because of the fact that they have all that extra space. Don't mind that play on Castillo at all, who's been very solid since coming over to the Seattle Mariners.
Beautiful. Now we also got 2 total bets, so let's dive into those next. Ben, what's your best total bet for tonight?
Give me the under on Pittsburgh going to New York to take on the Yankees. I know that we think of the Yankees and we think of the Bronx Bombers from the standpoint of this is a team with some dominant bats in their lineup, but you go and look at them over the course of the last handful of weeks, has not been particularly good. One of the few teams that's actually worse than them when it comes to hitting the baseball in the month of September has been the Pittsburgh Pirates. Dead last in Major League Baseball. It's been them and a combination of the Royals, the Athletics, and the Miami Marlins, who really have not put any consistent at-bats together over the course of it. So you have New York with all their struggles, their inconsistencies. Good pitcher on the mound for them in Nestor Cortez. Meanwhile, you have the Pittsburgh Pirates with Louis Ortiz going on the bump today. 0 ERA. The 23-year-old made 1 start before, went 5 2/3 innings, and looked very, very sharp. So when the Pirates have started to bring up some of their new, younger guys, they tended to have some success. Figure in the early portion of this game, there's not going to be a lot of runs, and we haven't been able to rely on the Yankees to overcome it. So between Pittsburgh not being able to score and the Yankees being up and down throughout the course of the last few months, I think the under 8 is absolutely in play, even at Yankee Stadium.
Pirates, Yankees, under 8. I certainly like that one. You can't trust the Pirates to score any kind of runs. My favorite total bet is also an under. It's also an under 8 as well. I'm going to go Cardinals, Padres, under 8. When you think of the Cardinals offense, you kind of think that they are a strong offense that scores a lot of runs. Has been the case for a lot of the season, but this month specifically, they've regressed a little bit, especially against right-handed pitchers since September 1st. These 2 teams, the Cardinals and Padres, rank 23rd and 25th in OPS against right-handed pitchers, and that's obviously relevant because this is a battle of righties between Adam Wainwright and Mike Clevinger. And Wainwright also has already done well against the Padres once this season. Back on May 31st, that is a little while ago now, seems like a lifetime ago, Adam Wainwright pitched 7 innings of 2-hit, 0-run baseball. I don't think we're asking for too much for this total to stay under 8 tonight with how both offenses have played against right-handed pitchers this month. So I'll go under 8. Cardinals, Padres for my favorite total bet of the night. So we got a couple totals, a couple pitching props. Ben, we also have a couple sides as well. I believe you are on a first 5 money line, I believe.
I am indeed. I like the Kansas City Royals. First 5 at home against the now lifeless Minnesota Twins. Man, I was kind of rooting for Minnesota even being here in the Kansas City area because I love Rocco Baldelli. Big Fish fan like myself, thought he was a really good manager for the opportunity at hand. Very advanced analytics guy, but it just has not worked out. Their hitting has really gone straight into the garbage. Their pitching has really struggled down the stretch as well. They're now under 500, I think for the first time all season now, 7 games back of Cleveland in the division and 3 games back behind the Chicago White Sox in the division that was just there for the tanking. They're really struggling right now, and they face a pitcher in Zach Greinke who has actually been much, much better at home throughout the course of the year, especially his first couple times through the order. Away, that's usually a guy that you want to stay away from, but Greinke's, to his credit this year, has really pitched better at home. So before you worry about any inconsistencies with the Royals bullpen that's been bottom 10 throughout the course of the season, I think you can rely on Greinke and the Royals offense to get a couple runs early tonight against Dylan Bundy and company. So give me the Royals in the early going first 5 before they get Greinke out of there, and then all hell breaks loose really on either side of the equation.
Yeah, so it looks like we are on opposite sides for this one, but there is a way that we can both win because you are on Royals first 5. I'm on Twins full game at -118.
So maybe both win this one.
Yeah, so maybe Royals winning after the first 5. Twins make a little late comeback here. Yeah, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm going to back Dylan Bundy. This might be the only time. This might be the first time in my betting career that I'll be betting on Dylan Bundy. I just have to take advantage of being able to fade the Royals offense right now. Dead last in OPS in the month of September. Also, Zach Greinke has faced the Twins 4 times already this season. He's 0-4 in those 4 starts. So at a decent price of -118, I'll back the Twins. But hey, like I said, hopefully it'll be a second half comeback.
I think that's the way to go. Like I said, the Royals bullpen throughout the course of the year has shown they are not to be trusted. Pitching development in general with the Kansas City Royals has been called into question. There was a story in The Athletic this week that Dayton Moore had to go on the record for and talk about how he felt that there was some misinformation there, but coming from very sourced writers in Rustin Dodd and Alec Lewis, who have been covering this team for a long, long time. Royals have got some issues, especially in the pitching department, and certainly the Twins offense, when they are showing that they're capable, can blast through it against the Royals bullpen that has been really a disappointment this year. It was supposed to come in as one of the strengths of their team. Has not been the case. So yeah, let's go ahead and get Greinke a little bit of runs early, and then Minnesota comes back and both of us can hit this bet.
Sounds good. Let's thread the needle. Yes, let's do it. Let's bring up the recap graphic in case you missed some of our picks here. I'm on over 7.5 strikeouts for Luis Castillo, under 8 total runs, Cardinals, Padres, and Twins full game money line -118. Ben, you are on over 5.5 strikeouts for Shane McClanahan, under 8 total runs for Pirates, Yankees, and Royals first 5 money line -105. There you have it. Those are our best bets for tonight. Now let's talk NFL before we switch back to baseball and talk game of the night, Mets, Brewers. Teams that we're going to either buy low on, or we are going to have one team to buy that we're buying low on, one team that we are selling high on through the first 2 weeks. I'll start this segment first. Let's start with buy low, and then we'll do sell high. So
love it. Okay.
I'm going to start with buy low, and this was my preseason Super Bowl pick. So maybe this is just wishful thinking at this point in time. But I'll buy low on the Indianapolis Colts. I think 2 games is a small sample size, first of all. It feels bigger than what it is because of a short season in the NFL and because it takes 2 weeks to play 2 games as opposed to other sports in the NBA. They would have already played like 5-6 games by now. But we have to remember it's 2 games. A lot of weird things can happen in a small sample size of 2 games. The Colts tied the Texans in the first game, but let's not forget they completely outplayed the Texans. They just couldn't get the ball in the end zone when they got down to the red zone. But if you look at things like yards per play, they dominated the Texans. And then week 2, let's hope that was their worst game of the season against the Jaguars. My boy Matty Ice has completely let me down. He looked like trash against the Jaguars, but I still think this Colts team can bring things around. Just for example, their defense has still been fantastic. I think they're tied for 6th, in opponent yards per play through the first 2 games. Granted, the 2 offenses they played weren't exactly top-tier offenses. I think the Colts can turn it around, especially considering this is kind of the history that we've seen from the Colts the past few years, that they're slow starters. And they started slow, turned it around. They were very close to making the playoffs last year. So I think it's time to buy low on the Colts. And I'm going to take them to cover the spread against the Chiefs this week as well. I think it's a perfect buy low spot for them. Colts is my buy low team. Ben, who are you looking at to buy low on?
Just one quick thought on the Colts before I
Yes.
give you my buy low team. I'm right there with you. I do think they cover against Kansas City. And for anybody that's looking to bet on that game, I would wait because the public is going to be all over Kansas City. We're seeing this line already creep up to 7. It wouldn't shock me, Ian, and maybe it wouldn't shock you as well, or maybe it would. I don't think it's crazy to think that this line could go to 7.5 later on in the week. And if that's the case, then I will 100% jump on the Colts. Remember, they haven't played any games at home yet. Over the course of Frank Reich's career in Indianapolis, they have struggled in weeks 1 through 5. But after week 6 on, this is a team that really starts to get on a roll. He ends up covering 67% of those games, wins at above a 60% clip. They just figure things out a little bit later on because he's had a different quarterback every single year. So I'm not worried about the Colts at all. They do look bad, but they had a lot of injuries in week 2. If they're able to get Shaq Leonard back, if they're able to get Michael Pittman back this week, I think they're in a really, really good spot. Let me tell you about a team that I'm going to buy low on that I've actually been really impressed with in an area that I thought that they would struggle with, and that's the Washington Commanders. I initially thought going into the season that once they got Chase Young back, that this was going to be a somewhat formidable defense, and that the offense would kind of be a little hit or miss depending on how Carson Wentz would go. I thought Jahan Dotson was a bit of a reach, but a nice solid slot receiver. Between him, McLaurin, Curtis Samuel in the mix, Logan Thomas is starting to look healthy as well. The offensive line is held up. Remember, they lost their rookie Brian Robinson, who ended up getting shot, but there's a chance he could return. They have a ton of offensive weapons right now, and they're looking like a top 6, top 7 offense in the NFL. Factor in the NFC East schedule allows them to have one of the easiest schedules in all of the NFL. I mean, right now, looking at their odds to make the playoffs in an NFC that is about as wide open as you can possibly get it, you can get Washington for just under 2-1 to make the postseason over at FanDuel. And I think their defense is going to get better over the course of the year because they're going to get some guys finally healthy. And Chase Young in the middle of that front four, Ian, makes a massive difference as far as their ability to get to the quarterback and stop the run. So Washington has impressed me. And yeah, Carson Wentz can be very up and very down, but I think the line and I think the weapons around him actually put him in a pretty good situation. Other than the Eagles in that division, I do think Washington could probably surprise some people this year.
So there you go. The Colts and the Commanders for a couple teams maybe you should buy low on. What about selling high on? I will start with my pick, and I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins, who I will tip my hat to them. Very impressive week 2 come from behind victory. One of the greatest comebacks in NFL regular season history. But I think now is time to sell high on them because, yes, everyone's talking about how good Tua looked, but let's not overlook their defensive performance. They are dead last in opponent yards per pass attempt. They're allowing teams to throw for 8.7 yards per pass against them. Lamar Jackson absolutely lit them up. They've also failed to run the ball effectively on offense, which is a big concern I had for them heading into the year, only averaging 3.7 yards per carry. Is Tua going to continue to throw 6 touchdowns a game and, just find wide open Tyreek Hills down the field? Maybe. I don't necessarily think so. And if their defense doesn't pick it up, every game they play in is going to be a shootout. So very impressive win. Hats off to them. But now they have to go and take on the Buffalo Bills, who look like absolute world beaters. They're living up to their Super Bowl favorite title heading into the season. So I think the Bills crushed them this week, and we've also seen a history of that. So I'm selling high on the Miami Dolphins. Still a good team. They're not a contender in the AFC, though. Let's be honest about that. They need to fix some things on defense and get their run game going before I'm willing to call them contenders.
Yeah, perfectly reasonable take. And, they had 2 wide receivers in week 2 go over 160 yards. And obviously everything changed when you have that type of speed that you can use all over the field. And credit to Mike McDaniel, who right now is the favorite for NFL Coach of the Year. The team that I'm going to sell high on is the New York Giants. Great start to the year. Big wins, big comeback wins in their first 2 games. But Ian, you can make a very compelling argument that the Giants should probably be 0-2 as opposed to 2-0. They've gotten a couple bounces go their way with Brian Daboll in charge. And this is coming from somebody who took the Giants in week 1 against Tennessee. I know that they were your money line upset pick of the week. It makes a difference when you have an adult in the room for a head coach, and you're already starting to see less turnovers from Daniel Jones. You're starting to see some smarter decision-making at the quarterback position. Having a healthy Saquon Barkley makes a difference, although the Panthers, I thought, did a nice job of bottling him up after a very, very impressive week 1. And we also saw what happened to Tennessee in week 2. So you look at both these wins, I don't know how necessarily impressed you should be. They now host the Cowboys on Monday night. Cowboys obviously without Dak Prescott, but they get a big win against Cincinnati. They got some tough games coming up against the Packers and against the Ravens before their schedule starts to get a little bit easier again. If you start beating some of those teams and put yourself in a position where the Giants are looking like a playoff team as opposed to a team that's in year 1 of this new rebuild, retooling in the Meadowlands, I just think there's still a lot more questions on this team. And variance can go a couple different ways here. And I do think the Giants have been very lucky and very fortunate in the early going. And I wonder if at some point that starts to come back and bite them on the other side.
Yeah, let's not forget they squeaked by 2 wins against 2 not-so-good teams in the Panthers and the Titans. So, yeah, you mentioned it. We'll see how they really look when they have to take on a good team later on in the season. So there you go. Buy low on the Colts and the – who was their buy low team again?
Buy low on the Colts and buy low on the Washington Commanders.
There we go. And then we're selling high on the Miami Dolphins and the New York Giants. Let's wrap up with our game of the night. It is the Mets and the Brewers. Obviously a big game for both teams here. Brewers trying to get in the NL wildcard spot. Mets holding on. I think it's just a 1-game lead now over the Atlanta Braves. It is Carlos Carrasco going up against Aaron Ashby. We talked about Aaron Ashby a little bit earlier when the community pick came in. So let's give out our best bets for it. Ben, what are you looking at for Mets Brewers?
I'm going with the Mets on the money line. I know that the issues for Ashby are of fair and valid concern, but I'm also concerned with New York's ability and their struggles against left-handed pitchers, especially of late. The Mets have some power bats in their lineup, but every time they seem to face a lefty, they really struggle. They're only hitting 240 as a team over the course of the year. Have not been good in the power department as well. They leave a lot of players on base over the course of it as well. I just feel like Ashby has been so unlucky over the course of the entire season. Brewers in particular are good against a pitcher like Carrasco that is willing to give up some home run balls, keep the ball up in the zone. They know the situation in Milwaukee tonight, likely with the roof closed. That's going to help the ball travel a little bit. I think Milwaukee is live here as a slight underdog against Carrasco, who's been a little bit too home run friendly as of late.
So you did say Mets, but you're on the Brewers tonight, correct?
Yes, I am on the Brewers.
Yes. Okay. So then so we agree about this one. I'm also going to back the home underdog here. It's the same thing that I talk about the Brewers every single time that we talk about one of their games. If they're going to face a right-handed pitcher, bet on the Brewers. Or if they face a left-handed pitcher, go ahead and bet against them because their OPS goes from 666 against lefties this season all the way up to 750 against right-handed pitchers. And Carlos Carrasco, pretty good second half of the season, but away from home, his numbers drop off quite a bit. 3.21 ERA at home, all the way up to 4.42 on the road. Also only 6-4 in 11 road starts this season. So I'm with you, Ben. I'm kind of concerned about Aaron Ashby a little bit, but I do think he's kind of had some bad luck, and I think he can turn things around at least enough for us to get this win tonight. And the poll results are in, and they're on the opposite side. So it's me and you against the BetSided poll.
BetSided pollers. What are you doing? We had a chance to be simpatico here. We had a chance to come together as a team, but that's okay. It's okay. We'll rally. We'll find a way to be able to move through this on tomorrow's show.
And I will say last night it was Peter and I and the community were all on the Vikings and we all lost. So maybe it's a good thing that we're opposite of the BetSided community today. So there you have it. That game wasn't even close either. All right, there you go. That is our show. Be sure to check out the early read, which went live earlier today. Reed Wallach going over this week's college football slate with Thor Nystrom and Cody Williams join him as well. Tomorrow on Daily Betslip, it'll be me and Donovan. And I will also be going live again in 30 minutes with Cody Williams. So Cody Williams is doing double duty with BetSided today. Him and I are going to talk President's Cup, which starts on Thursday. Speaking of Cody Williams, he just chimed in the chat too. I am the one Brewers backer in the Pro Carrasco fading. Go Brew Crew, go Team USA. So there you go.
Cody.
I agree with everything up until...
keep bringing you on this show.
I agree with everything he said, except for when he said, go Team USA. Me and him will get into that in 30 minutes on a special edition of Green on the Greens, the President's Cup edition of Green on the Greens. So thank you all for watching. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Ben, any final thoughts?
Excited to be back in a state where sports betting is legal. I was kind of itching the chin a little bit over the last 3-4 days in Western Massachusetts. So nice to be back in the fine state of Kansas to be able to place some bets and get ahead of Week 3 and, of course, the Major League Baseball slate.
Love it. MLB tonight, Week 3 is here. President's Cup is here. It's a big week. Thank you all for watching. Take care. Gamble or bless. I'll talk to you in 30 minutes. See ya.